I picked up my husband's phone for a prank and discovered his secret life. For context, my husband and I have been together for 6 years, married for 3. We've always had this playful, prank-friendly kind of relationship. Nothing malicious, just harmless fun. He used to steal my slippers and hide them in the freezer, and I'd swap his phone language to Korean just to watch him struggle. Stuff like that. But the last few months, something felt off. He was moodier, snappier, quicker to accuse me of nagging, even when I asked basic things like, "Hey, did you eat the leftovers?" He got weirdly protective of his phone too, like jumping if it buzzed, keeping it in his pocket even during showers, and literally turning away from me when he typed. I brushed it off at first. Stress, maybe. Work drama. Family issues. I told myself not to overthink. Then, yesterday happened. I was feeling silly and decided to prank him by grabbing his phone and sending a ridiculous meme to his brother. Something like, "Bro, do you think aliens wear underwear?" Completely harmless. Totally our humor. He had left his phone unlocked on the counter. Rookie mistake. So I grabbed it, giggling to myself. But when I opened messages, the top conversation wasn't his brother. It wasn't even someone whose name I recognized. It was a woman. And the preview of the last message she sent read, "Last night was perfect. When can we see each other again?" I froze. Not even a prank anymore. My whole body went cold, like someone unplugged me from reality. And that's where everything began. I wish I could say I shut the phone and walked away. I wish I could say I respected his privacy. But the second I saw that message, something in me snapped open. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the phone. I clicked the conversation, telling myself I was just checking, but deep down I already knew this wasn't something innocent. And it wasn't. The thread was long, weeks long. Photos, flirty emojis, late night messages, stuff like, "I can't stop thinking about how good you made me feel. Did she suspect anything? You're so much more fun than her." My stomach twisted so hard I thought I'd be sick right there on the kitchen floor. Then I saw his messages. My husband, the man who told me he loved me every morning, typing things like, "She won't find out. Trust me. She's too busy being boring lately. I'll come by after she falls asleep." I felt my ears ringing. My vision blurred. My heart started pounding like it was trying to crawl out of my chest just to escape the moment. What hurt most wasn't even the cheating. It was the little comments. The casual cruelty. The way he talked about me like I was some background character in his story. A part of me wanted to scream. Another part wanted to throw the phone through the window. But instead, I stood there silently, rereading texts that shattered everything I thought I knew. And then, as if the universe wanted to add chaos, I heard the front door open. He was home. The second I heard the front door open, I panicked. Not because I was scared of him, but because I knew I wasn't ready. Not ready to act normal, not ready to confront him, not even ready to breathe. His footsteps came down the hallway, casual and heavy, like every other afternoon. He tossed his keys in the bowl and said, "Why are the lights off? You doing that moody thing again?" "Moody thing?" "Right." "Okay." I stood there holding his phone in my hand like it was a ticking bomb. He didn't even notice at first. He was too busy complaining about traffic. I swear, people drive like idiots. And then my boss. He finally looked up and saw the phone. His entire face changed, like someone hit pause on his brain. Why do you have that?" he asked, voice thin, strained. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I didn't do any of the dramatic movie reactions. I just held up the screen with the conversation still open and said, "Who is she?" He blinked. Once. Twice. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh my God," he said, rolling his eyes. "You're being dramatic again. That's just a friend. A friend who writes about last night being perfect." He froze again. A tiny crack in the performance. "Okay, she's just someone from work who's going through a hard time," he corrected quickly. "I'm just supporting her." "With what? Your body?" His jaw clenched. Wow. So, now you're spying on me? Going through my private messages? Unbelievable. There it was. The flip. Classic playbook. I'm the villain now. He's the victim. I wanted to laugh. Instead, I whispered, "I wasn't spying. I was grabbing your phone to prank you. But I guess your cheating beat me to the punchline." His face went red. Anger, panic, guilt, all mixing together. He opened his mouth to speak, but for the first time in a long time, he didn't have a lie ready fast enough. The silence between us felt thick, like the air turned into glue. He kept opening and closing his mouth, searching for the perfect lie like he always did. You could practically see the gears grinding in his head. Finally, he snapped, "Okay, fine. Maybe it looks bad, but you're completely twisting things." I raised an eyebrow. "Twisting screenshots." He threw his hands in the air dramatically. "She's just someone who flirts a lot, alright? It doesn't mean I'm actually doing anything. You know how women are online. She's probably lonely." I stared at him. "She said last night was perfect." He shot back instantly. "She meant the conversation. We talked about, I don't know, her dog or something." I scrolled. "At 1:43 a.m.? He winced. "Well yeah, dogs don't have schedules." I swear I almost laughed at how stupid that sounded. Then he switched strategies, his usual cycle of manipulative excuses. Lie 1, deflect. "You've been distant lately. What else was I supposed to do?" Lie 2, victim mode. "You don't understand how stressful things have been for me." Lie 3, blame me. "If you weren't so sensitive, maybe I could talk to you instead." I stood there, letting each lie bounce off like rubber bullets. I wasn't taking the bait this time. Finally, he leaned in closer, lowering his voice like we were conspirators instead of whatever we had become. "Look, babe, You're blowing this way out of proportion. If you didn't take my phone, you wouldn't even know about this. I blinked slowly. So, your message is if I didn't catch you, it wouldn't be cheating? He nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. I just stared at him. He didn't even hear himself. He didn't realize he had just confessed proudly. And then he added the final cherry on top. You should apologize for snooping. My jaw literally dropped. Not in sadness. Not in shock. But in pure disbelief at how bold his stupidity was. And that was the moment something inside me clicked. I wasn't crying. I wasn't trembling. I wasn't begging for answers. I was done. But he didn't know that. Not yet. When he demanded that I apologize, something inside me finally turned off, like someone flipped a breaker in my chest.
No tears. No panic.
No shaking hands. Just a cold, heavy clarity. For months I'd been gaslit into thinking I was too sensitive, too clingy, too emotional, too suspicious. But standing there listening to him defend messages like, I miss your hands by saying they were talking about a dog, I realized. I wasn't crazy. I was living with a man who could look me in the eyes and lie like it was an Olympic sport. And he was going for gold. He kept pacing, ranting, waving his hands around like he was performing some dramatic monologue for an audience that wasn't there. I mean, seriously, he continued, you always overreact. It's embarrassing sometimes. You can't ever just trust me. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, just watching him unravel. He didn't notice. He was too busy lecturing me about boundaries while still trying to come up with a believable excuse for the message that read, should I book the hotel again? Same room. He tried a new angle. Look, it was just emotional support. She's been going through stuff. You know how nurturing I am. I couldn't help it. My expression must have shifted, because he suddenly squinted at me. What? Why are you looking at me like that? I said quietly. Because you're lying. And you don't even care that you're lying. He froze. Just for a second. His eyes widened, and he suddenly switched to wounded puppy mode. Babe, don't say things like that. You're hurting my feelings. His feelings. His feelings. My heart didn't crack. It didn't ache. It felt like someone placed it on a counter, dusted it off, and said, okay, it's time. Let's go. For the first time in months, I breathed without feeling like I had to justify every inhale. He stepped closer, placing a hand on my arm. Come on. Let's just forget this happened. I love you. Okay? Let's make dinner. Watch something reset. I nodded slowly. Okay, I said. And he smiled, relieved, thinking he had won. But I wasn't agreeing. I was planning. Because the switch inside me wasn't going to be flipped back. Not this time. After he said, let's just forget this happened, he went back to acting like the perfect, loving husband. Making jokes. Humming in the kitchen. Asking what I wanted for dinner like he hadn't just admitted to emotionally comforting another woman in a hotel room. I stayed calm. Too calm. He thought he'd smoothed it all over. He always did. In his mind, every problem was my fault until he talked long enough to confuse me into dropping it. But that switch inside me, it stayed off. I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't questioning myself. I wasn't arguing. I was planning. While he chopped vegetables, I excused myself and went to the bedroom. My hands didn't tremble as I opened my laptop and started making a checklist, something I'd never had the courage to even imagine doing before. Heavy checkmark change passwords. Heavy checkmark screenshot everything. Heavy checkmark transfer some savings into my private account. Heavy checkmark look up short-term rentals. Heavy checkmark tell my sister to be on standby. Every click felt like freedom in slow motion. A strange calmness washed over me, like standing in the eye of a storm. He could hear me typing and shouted from the kitchen. You better not be Googling stupid relationship quizzes again. You know those are all toxic. I almost laughed. He had no idea that I was the storm now. Just checking emails, I replied. It wasn't a lie. I was checking emails. Old ones that proved he had been working late for months on nights when I remembered going to bed alone. I gathered dates, times, screenshots. Not because I wanted to confront him again, but because I wanted to leave with every piece of truth he'd tried to make me doubt. When I came back to the kitchen, he greeted me with a big smile like we were in some cozy rom-com montage. Hey babe, he said lightly, we're good now, right? I just looked at him.
We're fine, I said. And he believed me.
Of course he did. He always underestimated me. But in my mind, I was already gone. For the next 2 days, I acted like the world's calmest wife.
No accusations. No tears. No questioning.
And because he thought the storm had passed, he relaxed. That was his mistake. On the third night, he fell asleep early on the couch with his phone half slipping from his hand. Normally, he guarded that thing like it was the nuclear launch codes, but exhaustion or guilt made him sloppy. I didn't have to unlock it. I didn't have to snoop. The message lit up the screen on its own. From her. Are you still thinking about Saturday? My stomach dropped, but I didn't make a sound. Another message popped up immediately. I miss how you held me, you okay? You've been quiet. Quiet. Of course he'd been quiet. Quiet because he was home playing devoted husband while I was secretly collecting evidence he didn't know I already had. He snored softly on the couch, completely unaware. I stared at the screen for a long, frozen moment, letting the truth settle like ice in my chest. This wasn't emotional support. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't comforting a friend. This was physical, intimate, ongoing, a relationship. And the worst part? He would have lied again. He would have sworn it was nothing. He would have twisted himself into knots to convince me those messages were taken out of context, or that she was obsessed with him, or that he didn't want to hurt her feelings. He would have said anything. And I realized something incredibly important. He wasn't just cheating on me. He was insulting my intelligence every step of the way. I didn't wake him. I didn't scream. I didn't confront him. I simply took my phone, photographed the screen, and went upstairs, my heartbeat finally steady. The plan was no longer just a plan. It was a countdown. The next morning, he woke up acting like everything was fine, stretching, yawning, rubbing his eyes like a man who hadn't just blown up his marriage in his sleep. He wandered into the kitchen while I was making coffee. "Morning," he said casually, like he hadn't been whispering sweet nothings to another woman hours before. I just nodded. Nothing more. And that alone threw him off. He blinked. "You okay?" I replied, taking a slow sip. He stared at me for a long moment, his face tightening. Then he laughed, a nervous, fake little laugh. "You're being weird." "I'm being quiet," I corrected. "There's a difference." He shifted his weight from one foot to the other.
He felt something.
Maybe instinct, maybe guilt, maybe the simple awareness that he'd been sloppy. But he sensed a shift. He walked over, trying to kiss my shoulder like he always did, like routine affection would smooth over whatever he thought was happening. I stepped away. That's when he froze. "What's going on?" he asked again, this time sharper. Defensive. The way he got whenever he felt control slipping. I shrugged. "Nothing you need to worry about." His eyes narrowed. "Did someone say something to you?" It was always that with him. Never did I do something wrong. Always did someone else ruin the image I built. I turned off the coffee machine and looked at him, expression neutral. "You tell me," I said. "Is there something I should know?" He swallowed hard. A tiny flicker of panic crossed his face. "Barely noticeable, unless you already knew what to look for." "No," he said too quickly. "What the hell? Why would you even ask that?" Then he laughed again, the way liars do when they don't know which story to commit to yet. "You're acting paranoid," he added. There it was. The gaslighting starter pack. Page 1 of his manual. And I realized then how many times I'd let him do this. How often I doubted myself, because he'd trained me to. Not anymore. I smiled calmly, the kind of smile that only appears right before someone drops a truth bomb. He flinched. He knew. He didn't know what I knew,
but he knew I knew something.
When a guilty man panics, he does something magical. He starts confessing to things you never brought up. That's exactly what my husband did. After I gave him that calm, unsettling smile, he paced the kitchen like a caged animal. Then, without me asking a single question, he blurted out, "If this is about me working late, it's not what you think." I raised an eyebrow. I didn't say anything about working late. He froze. Then, he backpedaled so hard, he practically tripped over his own excuses. "No, I just mean since you're acting weird, I thought maybe you were upset I've been busy. You know, with work and stuff." "Stuff." I echoed. "Yeah, like errands, responsibilities, adult things." He waved his hands dramatically, like he was juggling invisible obligations. It was almost impressive, the level of nonsense he could generate on the spot. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "I'm not upset about work." Now he was sweating. "Okay, then, if someone told you something, they're lying. People are jealous of me, you know. They spread rumors." I stared at him. I didn't say anything about rumors either. Silence. He swallowed hard and looked away, rubbing the back of his neck, his nervous tell. I had seen it 100 times, but never this clearly. Then he said the line every cheating husband seems to have bookmarked. "You know you can trust me, right?" Trust. The word landed with a dull thud. I didn't respond. Just let the silence stretch until he squirmed like a teenager waiting for exam results. He finally snapped. "Fine," he said sharply. "If you're mad at me, just say it. Stop giving me this attitude." "Mel?" I repeated.
"No.
I'm not mad." He blinked. "Oh, so we're back to being passive-aggressive now." I smiled again. Small, quiet, dangerous. He hated that. He hated not knowing what script to follow, what lie to prepare, what story to sew together. He stammered. "Okay, seriously, what is going on with you?" And I answered honestly. "I'm just observing." His eyes widened. Because he knew. Guilty men always know. After a few minutes of awkward silence, he decided to switch tactics. Classic him. When defensiveness doesn't work, he suddenly becomes the world's most affectionate husband. He walked over and put his hands on my shoulders. "You know," he said softly, "I've been thinking we should spend more time together. Just us. Maybe have a date night this week." Date night. From the man who spent date nights texting her. I stepped out of his reach. He blinked, offended.
"Wow.
Seriously? You're rejecting me now?" "I'm not rejecting you," I said. "I just don't feel like pretending today." He stiffened. Pretending what? That were fine. That hit him. Hard. And because he had no idea what specific thing I knew, he panicked and dropped the dumbest lie he could have possibly chosen. "I've been distancing myself because I'm planning a surprise for you." I stared at him.
A surprise?
"Yes," he said quickly, nodding too much. "A big one. Huge. You'd ruin it if you keep acting like this." "What's the surprise?" I asked. He hesitated, never a good sign. "Well, I can't tell you because it's the surprise." His voice trailed off at the end, like even he didn't believe his own excuse. I tilted my head. "Then why does your surprise text you at 1 in the morning?" His entire face went white, like bone white. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, like a fish desperately gasping on dry land. I don't know what you're talking about," he finally choked out. "Her message popped up on your lock screen last night," I said calmly. I wasn't even touching your phone. He froze. Silence.
Fear.
Then he found a new lie, one even worse than the last. She's just confused. About what? About, my friendliness.
Sure.
Because most women send messages about missing someone's arms because he's friendly. I didn't even respond. He threw his hands up. You're blowing everything out of proportion. I smiled. A small, tired smile. No, I said. For once, I'm seeing things exactly how they are. He hated that. And for the first time, I wasn't the one losing my mind.
He was.
After his last pathetic lie, I felt a wave of exhaustion. Not the physical kind. Not even the anger kind. The kind that hits deep in your chest, where trust and love used to live. I sank into the couch, staring at the ceiling. All those little, off moments over the past months, they weren't my imagination. The secret texts, the weird late nights, the sudden defensiveness. Every tiny clue suddenly clicked into place. My heart ached, but it was sharp, focused. Not like a fire that destroys. It was more like a spotlight illuminating everything I had ignored because I wanted to believe. He sat on the arm of the couch, hesitant. I can't explain, he murmured, voice low, shaky. I looked at him, saw the sweat on his forehead, saw the uncertainty. But I didn't move. I didn't react. I don't need an explanation, I said finally. I need reality. And reality is that you've been lying.
Consistently.
About things that matter. His eyes widened. I didn't mean. I cut him off. Doesn't matter what you meant. Doesn't matter what you feel. The point is, you betrayed me. He tried to reach for my hand. I pulled it back. You want to talk about trust? I asked quietly. You broke it. Not accidentally. Not by mistake. You broke it on purpose. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the refrigerator. For the first time, I wasn't pleading. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't begging. I was just sad. And strong. And done letting him manipulate my feelings. That night, I cried quietly in my bed. Not at him. Not at the betrayal. At the loss of the version of life I thought I had. But underneath that grief, a seed of clarity grew. I was not powerless. I was not trapped. And that gave me a strange kind of courage. The next morning, I woke up feeling a strange sense of calm. It was almost as if my mind had finally decided, enough is enough. I didn't argue with him. I didn't beg for explanations. I didn't pretend everything was okay. Instead, I started quietly reclaiming my space. First, I changed all the passwords, emails, social media, shared accounts. Then I collected evidence of the messages, just in case I needed them. I made a plan to separate some finances into an account only I could access. Every small action felt like a brick in a wall I was building around my independence. He noticed my quiet determination and tried to charm me. Hey, we can work this out, he said, voice soft and pleading. I smiled faintly.
Maybe.
But right now, I'm working on me. He frowned, confused. I didn't explain further. I didn't need to. I also reached out to my sister and a few close friends, letting them know what was happening, not for advice, just to make sure I had support if things escalated. That week, I kept my interactions with him polite but firm. Every question he asked about my day, my mood, my intentions, I answered with calm honesty. Never defensive, never emotional. I was no longer a participant in his manipulations. I was the observer, the planner, the one in control. And for the first time in months, I felt truly empowered. After a few weeks of distance, reflection, and reclaiming my life, I realized how much I had learned from the experience. Trust is earned, not assumed. Even in long-term relationships, ignoring warning signs can be dangerous. Boundaries are essential. If someone repeatedly disrespects them, it's not a communication problem. It's a character problem. Stay calm and strategic. Letting him reveal himself in his own lies gave me clarity and strength. Self-respect comes first. No relationship, no matter how long, is worth staying in if your dignity is being trampled. Support matters. Friends and family are essential for perspective and emotional safety. I realized that betrayal isn't just painful, it's a wake-up call. And sometimes, you need to let go of anger long enough to see the truth clearly, plan, and act. By the end of it, I wasn't bitter. I wasn't desperate. I wasn't lost. I was ready to move forward, stronger, smarter, and completely aware of my own worth. After all the evidence, the lies, and the sleepless nights, I knew what I had to do. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I didn't beg for him to change. I simply told him, calmly, I can't be in this relationship anymore. I can't trust you, and I won't let you manipulate me again. He tried the classic lines. Please, I can explain. I'll change. You don't understand. It's not what it looks like. Don't do this. We can fix it. But I just shook my head. I understand perfectly, I said. And I've made my decision. I started packing my things that afternoon. Not in anger, not in rage, but in quiet, deliberate determination. Every item I packed, every step I took away from him, felt like reclaiming a piece of my life that had been hijacked by lies and manipulation. By evening, I was gone.
No dramatic confrontations.
No shouting matches. Just freedom. For the first time in months, I could breathe. And for the first time, I realized that leaving wasn't losing. It was winning my own peace, my own dignity, and my own future. Looking back, it's surreal how quickly everything unraveled once I stopped pretending. The playful prank that started it all, grabbing his phone to tease him about his brother, turned into a full-blown revelation of his lies, his betrayal, and the version of him I thought I knew. What I learned is simple but powerful. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, investigate quietly and carefully. Observe, don't react. Let the truth reveal itself. Liars usually trip over their own lies. Prioritize yourself. Your dignity, your peace, and your emotional safety are non-negotiable. You don't need closure from them. Sometimes the only closure you need is your own decision to walk away. Leaving him wasn't easy emotionally, but it was the healthiest choice. I gained clarity, independence, and a reminder that I don't need anyone to validate my worth. Now, my life is quiet. My home feels like my own again. And while the betrayal still stings sometimes, I feel stronger, wiser, and fully in control of my future. The lesson I want to leave anyone in a similar situation with: observe the lies, trust yourself, and never settle for someone who disrespects your trust. Your freedom is worth more than their apologies.